without further ado, we are going to bring in a very funny gentleman who makes learning about our environmental scam system that much more interesting.
I know. I was sitting there alternating between like laughing and furious.
Well, I think we could definitely agree that it is both funny and furious at the same time. Raleigh Williams from Climatetown, welcome to Generational Change.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. I'm so pumped to be here.
Do you know how I came across you? Do you know the story?
I have no idea. I'd love to hear it,
so
though.
do you have a friend named Emily?
Oh, I have like 5 of them.
Okay. Well, okay. Well,
I'm a very popular guy with Emily.
I know you are, but this Emily has a cousin named Emily who is my friend and my Pilates instructor down in Florida. And she forwarded me your video from her that she got from her friend Emily. And I guess that's how she had met you at some point. And she said, "This looks like somebody you guys would want to talk to." And that was how I found that.
Wow, the Emily connection is a rare one. I'm so happy that we were able to make that happen.
That's awesome. So talk a little bit, because once I looked you up, there's really more about you playing pool.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
No, well, no, it's cool. Than anything. So I mean, where are you coming from in terms of like how you got involved in this, how you got involved in doing a plastics video? It seems sort of like, you know, a little ancillary to and what do you play? Do you play 9-ball?
I guess I play them all. I just like it all. Just anytime you're shooting balls with sticks, I'm happy. I'm a happy guy.
It is very addicting, and I did get hustled by a couple of friends when I was growing up, but I think I got a little.
My dad used to make his money when my dad was in high school. That was one of the things that he did. He and his friend, they had a hustle. They had a routine, and they would drive around in rural parts and places in Florida. They're lucky they didn't get killed. This was a lot of years ago, and had a scam, and he would make money.
Damn, that's and sorry, can we swear on this thing? I didn't.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, we don't want to be so horrifically suppressed as a channel.
It doesn't matter. Let it fly.
Got it. Okay, cool. Damn, I said. Yeah, that's hustling is kind of a lost art. It's
right
because the internet is coming out and people can be like, "Hey, do you know this guy who just won like $40,000 at our pool hall?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, that's Blackjack Slim, you know," and he's like hustled everybody up from Mason-Dixon to Kalamazoo, which honestly, I don't know how far that is. It could be like 10 miles, but anyway, he's a hustler and you should shoot him if he walks into your pool hall. So that's, really? I mean, a lot of people really awesome. got because they tried to hustle. So I'm glad your dad survived long enough to make you.
Yeah. You know what? This is how I actually worked in Colorado in the pool hall on campus. It was like at the University Center. We had a bowling thing and a pool hall and an arcade. And
which university?
University of Colorado.
CU Boulder, baby. We're talking the Buffs.
Come on,
Buffs. Here we go, Buffs.
Pre-internet, granted. So, you know, but I was just the girl behind the register. But like you would get these guys coming in and I'd be like walking around cleaning up or whatever. And they would want to be like teaching me how to play pool. And so
toxic masculinity.
Right. Yeah. So I would just, you know, that's the only time, but I never for money. It was never for money. It was more just to make people look stupid.
Yeah. I think that's in a lot of ways that's worth more than money. So I'm happy that you found value in it. Yeah. That's, it's an interesting thing. I got into pool because my grandmother's basement flooded and she used to have a pool table down there. And I just like begged my parents to let me have it in our basement. I said, okay. And we've had it down there ever since. And that's where my love of pool started.
That's really cool. So talk about how you got involved in Climatetown, how you ended up being like the spokesperson for, you know, the women's jumpsuit movement.
Wow.
And how you ended up
they
in
really
this
picked
video.
the wrong person for that spokespersonship.
So yeah, just talk about how you got into that and where the background of this video came from with your involvement.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it all goes back to, I'm a comedian and I moved to New York to do comedy from Colorado, where we both hail from, I think. And also at least 50% of the Emilys in your story are from Colorado area. And so I was growing up there and I was doing comedy out there. And then I moved to New York and I did comedy for several years. And then a show that I pitched got picked up at a theater called Caveat. And it was it was called An Inconvenient Talk Show. And in this show, I played kind of a strung out Al Gore kind of character on, I referred to it as, because it was like, yeah, climate change, that thing I've been talking about is real. So, you know, you guys all owe me an apology. And after a couple years of doing that, it was like a show that the premise of the theater was that it had to be this, by the way, this microphone's not plugged into anything. Is that okay?
Oh,
Am I coming in okay?
Yeah.
I just did it for effect because you guys had those sweet microphones with those pop filters and everything.
We're very fancy here.
Yeah.
So you're talking into like a unhooked microphone?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's not going to change anything. I just wanted to be popular, Jen. I just saw you guys do it.
So where are you? So you're doing comedy. Clearly you're funny. Like clearly
Thank
you're funny.
you.
Well, and I'm also really
sweating
kind of
over here.
We had a happy hour. I was on a happy hour talk show before where every 50 minutes, like an alarm would go off and she took a drink and I had to smoke a bowl. So, I mean,
Raleigh, you got to be quick. When somebody says that you're funny, you got to say, I'm funny how?
I feel like if I use that, then at some point somebody's going to be like, oh, he's the funny how guy. He's the guy who always says funny how. And I don't want to be pigeonholed like that.
All right. So go back to the story. So you were doing comedy and then the Climate people appropriated you. No.
I am the Climate Town people. Okay. So I was doing this live show. And at some point I was getting like, my guests were climate scientists and then comedians. So it was like, you know, people from SNL, Late Night with Seth Meyers, like these comedians would come on and then we'd have a climate scientist and I would interview them like a talk show, but it was also a sketch show. It was really fun. We had a great time. And then eventually it became clear to me through like researching for the show that that climate change was just more important than any of the other shit that I had going on. So I enrolled at Columbia University for a climate science policy degree. And then a couple years into that, COVID happened. And so you couldn't do live shows. And so I pivoted. I turned the parts of the live show that I thought were the funniest, I turned that into a series called Climate Town. And so like I'm a video editor by trade. And so like I did all my own editing and mostly my own videography. And eventually it just kind of got to a point where I would like learn something in class and then research it and then write a script for it and punch up the comedy. And then I also have like comedy friends, so I could like send the script out and they would say like, oh, tweak this joke. This isn't funny. What the fuck are you talking about? And then I would make the changes. And then I have a bunch of friends all over New York who are videographers. So they'll come and shoot an episode or direct an episode here or there.
Where is Climate Town?
That's a great question. It's just sort of a name at this point. Like it has no mayor or comptroller or anything.
No, I mean, where do people find your show?
Oh, got it. I thought you were asking like a meta question about the like canon
like a very existential. Like,
yeah.
Like, where is this? No, I meant like,
allegedly you smoked 4 bowls. So these questions are questions that I would expect from somebody who's that.
I'm sorry. Normally I'm a little bit more sober, but on that happy hour really was hard.
No, I get it. I'm jealous, if anything. I'm only lashing out because I wish I was where you were, you know?
Well, where are you in New York still?
I'm in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Brooklyn.
That's where you know my Emily from. She was an NYU person. She has a lot of friends that were NYU theater people. She's a theater geek.
I was going to say.
What's your Emily's last name?
Katz.
Say that again.
Katz with a K.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Like the deli.
Hey, any relation?
I don't think so. I mean, and technically we're all related because if your tribe really, other than the Amish, we kind of have an inbreeding.
Yeah, dude, you have no idea. It's kind of scary.
It is like it freaks him out. Like he'll talk about somebody. I'm like, oh yeah, that's so and so and my cousin or whatever.
What?
Like Jewish geography is instead of 6 degrees, it's more like 1 or 2 of separation.
Well, congratulations. And ironically, it's more degrees from Kevin Bacon, which is not allowed to be eaten. So there's a little connection there for you.
We like Kevin Bacon.
So how often do you do your how often do you do a show?
Like a episode of Climate Town or like a live show?
Yeah, because I would have never known of this if she hadn't sent me the video of plastics. Like I didn't know this was a thing. So is it something on YouTube that people subscribe to?
Yeah, it purely exists in a digital space right now. I try to do an episode like more than one a month, but I haven't released an episode in 2 months based on a couple of extenuating circumstances like graduating, and I took a week off, and I am mentally imploding. I don't know why, but I can't get anything done. But here is the script for the next video, and we're shooting it tomorrow, so we'll have something done, hopefully.
That's really cool. Well, and you know what? Yeah. When people don't realize how much effort it takes to put even short things together. And I want to say something about how you're combining like comedy with actual facts and information that's real information. I think that's really cool. We do not see enough of that. You know, you're actually doing more of what journalists are supposed to be doing. And I feel like this is just more towards us living in that era where our comedians are being our journalists and our journalists are useless.
Well, it's kind of interesting you say that because, you know, the person, of course, who comes to mind is, you know, Jimmy Dore. And it's kind of just taken, it's just taken on this whole new approach to getting our information. You know, it's funny. You said that you were going to let it fly. We had Judah Friedlander on the podcast, and he really let it fly.
It was good.
He was great, and I honestly, it's a throwback because you know
you never even watched 30 Rock. I don't know,
but I do think that the greatest comedian of all time is George Carlin, and you know he obviously is not everybody's cup of tea, but he was the biggest, you know, truth speaker out of anybody I'd ever heard. And that's really what I thought comedians were supposed to be. And over the past several years with everything that's gone on, whether it be through COVID or just in the Trump era, there's just been this completely different approach. And you, of course, being in Brooklyn, you're kind of in the eye of the hurricane where a lot of that sort of change, if you will, kind of came about in terms of how comedians approach, you know, political issues. I'm wondering how you observe that and where it stands right now from your perspective.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I don't know that I would necessarily agree with this idea that comedy ever deviated from like a sort of a trailing narrative. I think maybe like mainstream comedy probably did that. And again, like that actually links into, and I think like that's maybe what you were even saying the whole time.
Like late night, like how the shows have gotten like that. That's what he.
Yeah. I mean, even that though, like I think we know George Carlin was this like amazing like prophet essentially, but if you go watch his late night stuff, he's got a joke about like, I keep going to hotels and like they've got a little button kit, and so I like to sew buttons on all the lampshades, which is like, what? That's not a George Carlin joke at all. But he was like, he does like that sort of material, like his like the George Carlin material is like from his specials and his live stuff, and like I think it's easy to kind of like chart a course backwards by just the bright spots in the history of comedy and forget that like most comedy is live, or most live comedy that I've seen is like gritty and raw and a lot of like very politically charged stuff that like I think like in the mainstreamification there's been a sanitization of a lot of comedy because that's what you can sell to soccer moms in Michigan. But yeah, I think probably there's just been a lot more comedy, and the loudest stuff, the stuff that's getting the most attention, is just kind of like spineless, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my take. I'm not saying that's definitely true, but I think there certainly hasn't been a major departure from the general narrative that comedians are trying to like speak truth to power. Maybe there just hasn't been another person as good as George Carlin at that particular skill.
Well, I think we also see extraordinary censorship as well. But talk about like what your thought process is when you're trying to make something entertaining about climate crisis, and how is that? I mean, because really, it's not funny. You know, like it's ridiculous that we're even needing to do this, and that someone like you is the person that's promoting or exposing how the whole plastics industry was so sinister in its like how it created this idea of recycling, whereas that never occurred to me, although it should have.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all. Like, it's not shocking to me, but you know, how do you go about making stuff like that entertaining, you know?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the like work was done by people like Jon Stewart, who just pioneered this concept of taking incredibly boring and mundane political bullshit and making it funny. Just like finding little ways to like insert a little bit of like a bit in here that's like a runner that, oh, every time I say this guy's name, I'm gonna like do a little audio cue or thing, you know, just like kind of comedy around the information. Kind of like, oh, I just thought about what I think is potentially a really good metaphor. You know how like there's like a grain of sand, and if you jam it into an oyster, it'll make a pearl by like coating it in something, mucus or some bullshit. I don't know how oysters work, but I think that's like, you know, like they start with all the grains of sand of like, here's what we want to, the information we want to get across, then they like coat it with comedy and like ship it out the door. I think the point of, you know, there's like a lot of different ways to do comedy. Like you can do stand up, you can do sketch. The particular type of comedy that I like the most right now is like, I'll take a big important concept that maybe not important, but like something that's really surprising and maybe even a little conspiratorial. And then I'll like try to write that out in a way that's kind of like a mystery being exposed. And then I'll just write jokes throughout it and shoot it and then write more jokes in post. So I think a lot of my favorite jokes kind of come in that I didn't even plan when I shot it, that like we can like cut between certain things in a way that's funny, or like hit a sound cue here, do a freeze frame and a punch in on somebody who walks by in the background is looking weird. And like, you know, it's just like trying to take any opportunity to add humor to a pretty humorless subject. That's my strategy.
And we've had a few comedians on the show. So curious, where's your favorite spot in New York to perform, and where is basically your favorite spot around the country?
Well, and then we usually like to know, and where is the worst? Like, where is the crowd been the worst? Who was the comedian that we had on that was David
like,
Cross?
Yeah, he's like, I will not go to Florida.
Well, I won't go to Florida.
You know, it's like
Florida, yeah.
Oh, we've got a reputation and we've earned it. There's no question we have.
Yeah. So where's your favorite? Where's your least favorite?
I think a lot of my places, unfortunately, got the axe due to COVID. It turns out that like selling $5 tickets is not a way to like run a business. So like both UCBs in New York got shut down. My favorite place that I performed recently is Caveat Theater in Manhattan. I 1 or 2 times got to do a show at Comedy Works in Denver, and that was like, those shows were so fun because just the audience is really great. And I one time did a show at Squire Lounge, and it was awful. It's like a little like shitty dive bar in Denver on Broadway Street, and it just like, it made me want to quit comedy. It was so sad.
So Denver was a bad experience for you.
Denver was a simultaneously great experience and a rough experience. But in that crowd's defense, I was terrible.
So you're from there. You're from Colorado.
No hometown love, man. I mean, look, I didn't do well. I didn't do funny jokes. Like if you're a comedian, there's a social contract you're entering into about taking a microphone that says you're going to do funny material and people will not shout at you. That's the contract. And I broke that contract by not doing funny material. And I was sued for it in the form of getting no laughs.
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh.
You know, it builds up tough skin, though. I think that's the important part.
Well,
so that's like running for office.
Yeah. Speaking of, how's that going?
We're not running right now. We're just sort of, what we ran in 2020. And I think, look, we ended up with a good platform. So I'm using it for all sorts of good things and spreading the word and doing a lot of service. We're very involved locally in service stuff. Our campaign was a very service-based campaign, and our volunteers all did community service. So we kind of just kept it going and really look at it as part of just this broader mission of what we're trying to do. And I just, when I find something interesting, I just think everybody should know about it. and I'm gonna share it. So whether it's a book that I read or a video that I see, I just like to I feel like if I have to, I got to use this platform. I got to educate the people.
Wow, that is very noble of you. Thank you very much.
No, it's not. I mean, really, I can honestly tell you from a completely selfish perspective, I'm really tired of being surrounded by morons. And so I feel like the more I put out there that educates people is the less morons I'm going to be surrounded around by. So yes, it might be noble for some extent, but there is a certain self-serving element to it as well.
I also think that there's a lot of people who are aware that the people who are keenly aware, I mean, not a lot of people are, but the ones who are recognize that even though Trump is not president anymore, the precedent has been set that there are a lot of people who are sick and tired of the BS that goes on in this country from a political standpoint, and they are desperate for a new path. And one of the approaches that we've tried to take is this idea that if you really want to build a coalition, it has to be non-corporate, it has to be nonpartisan, and it has to lift up labor. And if you don't do that, you are literally on the hamster wheel. You are in this red-blue dynamic of that side's bad, we're good, and that's the way it has to be. No, you got to change that because most people don't want to deal with this nonsense. Most people know that we need universal health care. You know, just like in New York, they're trying to pass the New York Health Act, and there's just this bureaucratic nonsense that most people would look at and say, yeah, this is why I don't want to have anything to do with it.
It's why we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. If you look at like we have, 7 to 8 billion people on the planet, and if we just worked as a unit, we could be a pretty sick place to live. Like we could really do some shit.
Yeah,
and it's and everyone knows that, but like we just can't get it together enough to do that, and that's a bummer.
Why are you putting that up? This is
funny.
Our friendly neighborhood troll. Hi, Declan.
Swearing is violence.
We think his real name is Declan because he used to be on here, but then he changed characters.
Jen wants that sweet insider trading. Let me tell you.
He's a fairly harmless. He's a fairly harmless troll, so we don't really.
Yeah, you got to. You know what? Again, it's like a heckler who's doing it for. He's doing it with. For.
Look, he consistently shows up. He gives us views. He comments on the stuff. He's helping our algorithm. That's how I look at it. I don't really care.
He's barely a troll at that point. He's like a citizen of the community.
Right? Comments, likes, and all that interaction actually does make a difference.
So that's what I tell him. Like,
welcome it. We're not going to say no.
Yeah.
Keep it respectful.
So we started this off of our campaign, and yet we still continue to get. Are you running again? Are you running again? Are you running again?
Well,
are you taking this opportunity to announce your 2022 campaign?
Yeah. No.
Oh, sorry.
You have to be very strategic, which I think is the biggest problem with the progressive left, or more so, like I said, this non-corporate, nonpartisan movement that we're trying to build. There are a lot of people who want to run and have ambitions of, grandeur and getting places and stuff. And that's great. But you have to be real. I hate using the word realistic because it comes off like, you're
strategic.
You got to be strategic.
It isn't just a matter of, I want that job, I'm going to run for it and get in that job. There's a lot of variables. First of all, it's not a job for everybody. It's not necessarily a job for any one particular person, but it definitely requires a certain set of skills and characteristics for somebody to be able to be good at it, like anything.
And you also have to really know for certain, the person that you're backing, what their values are, if they're. And
the truth is you have to be the right demographic for the right district.
That is true too. I mean, obviously I'm sure you're aware of what's going on with the mayoral race.
He's they're fixated on the New York mayoral race.
I think it's important.
Doesn't live there.
I know, but I do think it's important. And, we had Diane Morales on the podcast and I thought, she seemed really good, but this whole thing that happened with her staffers and the way that it just went completely kaput, and the election is literally around the corner. And we were very fortunate when Jen ran, because if you want to talk about what it's like to be ghosted when you're running for office, where people just want to pretend like we do not exist.
Try challenging Debbie Wasserman Schultz, see what happens.
And listen, I don't want to, we're very grateful for the movement that Bernie has essentially started. I do think that AOC brings more to the table in a good way than in a not so good way. But the one person of really considerable note who endorsed Jen when she ran was Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
And I cannot emphasize enough.
He stepped up for me.
And
like he really did.
And it isn't so much how he stepped up.
His people.
The Yang Gang is one of the most committed group of people you will ever. If you're running for office, you want that group behind you.
They worked harder for us than the progressives did.
If he ends
than our local progressives did.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The Yang people, they did phone banking. They had they were on it.
If there's one thing I can say, whether he wins or loses, his people are not going to be outworked on the campaign trail. They are absolutely going to put in that work, whether it's in Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx,
and
Manhattan,
they're smart,
wherever.
And they work strategically.
What's the fifth one? What's the fifth one?
Staten Island.
There it is. Staten Island.
I know all my boroughs.
Although if you want to be technical about it, the fifth borough is really Hoboken, but that's a whole other story.
If you want to be technical, the sixth would be South Florida, but we don't.
Yeah,
really
that's true too. That's true too. And
have you ever been down here, Raleigh?
Island. No, one time, one time I was in like Doral.
Yeah, that's where Trump has his fame.
Totally. I have a wonderful, a really incredible, really amazing golf course there. If you've never been there, you totally want
really
to go.
Good impression. That's
here,
really
now
good.
You're encouraging him. Here it goes.
No, I think you should do that 24/7.
I would never come to Brooklyn.
Sorry,
they
Susie.
Totally don't vote for me. They're the terrible people. They're really terrible people.
Wow.
I don't know why you live there. They're really terrible. They don't want to make America great again.
How much more mileage do you feel like you can get out of that?
It's the problem. That's the thing. I'm sick of looking at it.
I'm totally running again in 24.
You're going away.
I'm totally running again.
He does Bernie. He does Trump, and he does Bill Clinton.
You know, I was thinking that whether I ever run, or if I ever did a comedy bit, you know, I could do
two very similar things. Exactly.
Yeah, well, because politics is a joke.
It is a joke.
It just
got write that down. Write that down.
Yeah, definitely need a little drawing. Yeah, write that down.
Write that
just
down.
A little draw. Well, you're the one with the pen and paper.
Here,
not me.
write it down.
I'll write it down.
You write it down. Take copious notes.
So yeah. So anyway, my point was that, you know, there's a lot of people in the progressive movement who want everything to be a certain way, and they don't want to take whatever progress can ultimately be made.
They're all or nothing. They're throwing out, like, they like to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
And even though there's definite, a number of flaws with Andrew, but if Eric Adams ends up becoming the mayor of New York City, that is really going to set things backwards, at least from my perspective. And
is he even in the running right now?
Oh yeah, but apparently he's leading. I mean, he's the Brooklyn borough president. Yeah. But what I really think this is, and this is just my opinion, because again, we thought Diane was great, but we saw.
I love how you're telling the person in Brooklyn who his borough president is.
Well, again, a lot of people.
I just want to know what the polling says right now.
The polling says that the race is basically between three people. If we're being honest with ourselves in terms of where it is, you can put, AOC endorsed Maya Wiley, so you have to give her that. She's third, but right now, if you're talking about who the top two candidates are, just based on the consistency in the polling, it's Eric Adams, who's the borough president of Brooklyn, and it's Andrew Yang. So that's basically what the race is going to be like. But
you'll end up with one of those two people.
But it's going to be interesting because you've got ranked choice voting. So is that going to play a role? It's going to be very interesting to see where the votes ultimately end up going.
By the way, you realize that the ranked choice voting is only within the Democratic Party. It's not a New York thing, right?
True.
So I don't want to give people the wrong idea that all of a sudden they're just having general ranked choice voting. But props to their Democratic Party, because ours, we can't even get an unweighted vote without controversy.
But what I thought was very interesting that happened today is, obviously a lot of weight gets drawn from getting AOC's endorsement, but Andrew got the endorsement of what I believe is one of the best union endorsements you can get, which is the firefighters. So the firefighters actually endorsed Andrew today. And when they asked the president of the IAFF of New York City, why did you endorse Andrew? Very simple. We are tired of the political machine in New York City. That's it. That's what he said. And I understand that. It's not a question of whether we think Andrew is all or nothing. It's a question of we're tired of the bureaucracy.
The same thing.
And that's one thing about big city politics that really annoys people, is this idea of the entrenchment. And again, we got it down
But maybe
here.
once his campaign is over, we can get him to come on the show.
Yeah, well, we've been trying to do that, but again, it's not as easy as
small potatoes.
We're not small potatoes.
We're small potatoes.
We're not small potatoes.
I feel
you're a russet potato.
I feel fingerling potato.
Well, we're
tater tots.
We're tater tots.
Tater tots. There we go. Or mashed potatoes.
When you were in school, tater tots were definitely one of the things that you look forward to.
Yes, the tater tots.
There was a tater tot on the menu. I was hog wild that day.
Wait, did you say where you went to undergrad? Did you go to Boulder?
I actually went to CU Boulder for 1 semester in the middle of my sophomore year.
What'd you think?
It was nice. It was big. I took I was a chemistry major, so I took first semester of organic chemistry there, and it was challenging. I remember.
Yeah.
But I was mostly rock climbing a lot, so I can't
and
speak.
I'm sure that was 20 years after I was there, so I doubt we probably don't know the same things. I graduated in '92, which is
it would have been 2007.
Yeah, I'm older than you.
Yes, no, he's young.
Yeah,
you
guys have aged tremendously well, both of you.
Us millennials, we got
us millennials.
You're a Gen Xer.
I'm a Gen Xer.
We got a lot. We got a lot of weight to burden that really is gonna. It's already falling on our shoulders in terms of the way the economy's moving and whatnot. But I do want to ask, and obviously this is one of the central. This is one of the central questions, obviously, of the evening, which is
not the one on the screen. That's
definitely
that's our troll.
But what inspired you to make the video? And obviously, it's gotten almost 500,000 views. So a lot of people have obviously become.
Great.
Do you not follow that? Do you not? I mean, how long has that been up there? When did you first post this video?
I think it was posted in December, so it's had a couple months to get there. That's great.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was over 400K. That's
it's like 450, 460. So yeah, it's gotten a lot. What the thing that I took away, I mean, obviously, I always suspected that there was scamming elements to it, but I always remember the image of the Indian with the tear, and when you find out that he wasn't even an Indian, I mean, you want to talk about
are you remotely surprised by this? This is the country of blackface.
But this is also a country that cannot and will not stop literally trying to clamp down on Native Americans.
Oh, we're not going to be happy until they're all just gone. We just will not leave them alone. We cannot leave them alone.
I mean, it's an ongoing, slow-moving tragedy. The Americans' treatment of First Nation people, for sure.
Have you been following the pipeline stuff? Have you been following that, the pipeline stuff?
Yeah. I mean, the dropping of the Keystone by the company is a lot of people were really. I don't know. It felt like it made big news despite having been kind of shut down several months earlier. I don't know. I guess it was just like they're not fighting it anymore, which was fantastic.
It was just a formality.
Well, I mean, maybe they thought they were going to be able to wait out Biden or something, but I don't know. But to answer your question, I think what made me feel that or want to make that video was the resident identification code. Yeah. That really that really changed things for me when I found out that the plastic industry just made that look like a recycle symbol because people would then sort of think it was being recycled, and that just rubbed me the wrong way.
How did you find that out? Because I never knew that. Now, once you put them side by side, then I'm like, okay, that's clearly the original recycling symbol and whatever, but it's very misleading, obviously intentionally. But how did you find out about that? Because I think you're the person who told me. So who told you?
Oh, great. I think you told me. No, I either saw it in an article. So I knew that just a tiny fraction of 10% of plastic is actually recycled. And so I was like, okay, so there's some shit here. And so I watched a couple of documentaries on it. There's a fantastic, PBS made a fantastic documentary called Plastic Wars that just if you liked my video, the Plastic Wars just kicks my video right in the dick. It's amazing. So yeah, all the way.
But the awesome thing about your video is that it's not too long. and it's nice and concise and says it's, you know, that's the thing. I do look at that before I engage in something, how much of a time commitment it is.
Although according to our social media team, potentially it's
5 minutes is
5 minutes is supposedly from the demo, the 12
to 24.
No, 34.
34, 12
the
to
12 to 34 age demographic. You want to cap videos at 5 minutes. That's
who told you that?
Okay, so
team.
I got contacted a couple months ago by a professor at Mount San Antonio College, which is a community college in Southern California. Yeah. Cool. And she teaches an advanced PR class. And one of the things they do is they assign them actual clients, and they do a group project, and they come up with a proposal and a plan, and they do a presentation. You know what like, you know. And
I mean, it sounds like a college class to me. That's great.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And she likes to find them things that are in the area that they're interested in. So for all her students that liked like our sort of nonprofit political sector, she asked if we would be a client. I said yes. We met with them. They got all of our background, all of our data. They took off for like 2 months, and they put a presentation together yesterday. They had our logos, our demographic, like it was blew me away. Right.
Congratulations.
But again, I was in college. There was no internet. So we were limited, but it was amazing. And so basically we got a free PR plan.
That's fantastic.
From really smart college students that understand social media infinitely better than we do.
And that gets back to the whole strategy thing about, you know, what do you want to do? Because, yeah, you want to be able to run for office, but I thought that the biggest mistake that Bernie made between 2016 and 2020 was there was never a big enough signal that was put out to a lot of the progressive groups that you really have to be in the party from, you know, a precinct committee captain perspective, you know, running to get on certain boards and things like that. You have to create that infrastructure. The state that has done it and has done it exceptionally well is Nevada. And one of the people who is running for Congress, who we think is exceptionally great, is Amy Vilela. And if you don't know her story, she's definitely somebody.
She was one of the people from in that what was it? Knock down the house.
Knock down the house.
Knock down the house. With the candidates. Remember AOC had that. They were in that movie. It was Cori Bush, AOC. Amy Vilela was one of them.
But her story is absolutely heartbreaking. She lost her daughter
because they have no health care.
Yeah, it's sick. It's absolutely sick.
She couldn't afford the treatment for her daughter.
And again, most people agree, almost universally at this point, that we do need. It's a super majority in this country now that agrees we need a universal healthcare system. So we have to start moving that needle in whatever capacity they want. We can. Be able to do. Again, of course, there's a lot of people who are very impatient, and I understand that. They don't think that the squad and people like that are doing enough. And you could make that argument, but I also would say that just having AOC instead of Joe Crowley, having Jamal Bowman instead of Elliot Engel, being able to put Medicare for All into the ether throughout all of New York, I think there's a real progressive movement that has been brewing in New York for quite some time, and I think you guys are doing a great job. I really do.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, a lot of people like.
I'll take all the credit for that.
Yeah, well, it's all you. It's all thanks to you. So, and what do you see is like the call to action when you're making a video? Because we generally, when we do something, we're like, okay, what are we going to ask people to do? Like, what is it that people can actually do? Obviously, stop using single-use plastics, But what was the sort of mission that you were seeking from your video from Climatown? Like, what are you wanting to? What's your push? Are you vegan?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Vegan?
I think there is a big hang up that America has on personal responsibility and has always had. And so that's the question that everyone always asks me, like, what can I do? And it's like, well, you can probably not make a difference by your personal actions. And like, doing that, like, oh, if you are like going out of your way to like every day, every single thing you do, you like sort it out and you strip out all the recyclable plastic and you like recycle the only stuff that can be recycled and you make sure it gets to the destination. If you're expending all your energy doing that, you're probably releasing a little valve in your brain that says like, I need to do more. You're probably like feeling like you're doing a lot when really that's actually not doing much. So when people ask me like, what can I do? It's always like, get involved, start many organizations, or if nothing else, get educated, get like super educated on this shit. Like read all that you can read, like read books too, not just like the latest New York Times article or like whatever thing came through Reddit, or get as educated as possible. And the solutions come through understanding the context of the problem, and not through like somebody telling somebody else to like, don't eat a chicken sandwich once a week. That's my personal
it's understanding the root causes and really understanding your place in that process as best as you can, and doing the things that you can do. I mean, that's how I do things. Like I do what I can, where I can. I think about it. I'm mindful of it. It's, but I don't run around like, we got to get rid of the straws. We got to get rid of the straws. We got to because
sure, yeah, that's a big distraction.
It is. And to me, until we deal with the military industrial complex and big agra, when it comes to dealing with climate crisis, we're all just spinning our wheels. Because those,
yeah, but also like it's a wicked problem, right? It's like 15 problems all tied into one.
Yeah.
So like to say that like, oh, we got to solve military industrial complex plus big ag, and that, it's like, well, we sort of need to just do all of these things at the same time.
Yeah.
And maybe that's like splitting off or figuring out what your personal, like you guys being as politically oriented as you are, like running for office, that's like a huge move. Like spending that much time is a huge move, and that can make real shit happen. I don't think I have it in me to run for an office, but I do have it in me to like make a YouTube video or go to college about this, and like people watching this, if you're watching this out there, the guy who's trolling everybody, like you're doing a good job, troll guy. We call him Declan, maybe. That's great.
His name's Declan, right?
Great. I mean, and whatever your name is, like I'm not prejudiced about names. Like your name could be Slagathor. I don't care. But like you can expend your energy doing whatever you're best at. And maybe that's trolling people, in which case like go to town on these dipshits who are these Congress people who refuse to kill the filibuster. Go to town on these people online, like that actually weirdly does shit. Like a flood of negative comments will change people's minds sometimes. So think about that.
Yeah,
that's
our call to action. We did a live stream telethon for Julian Assange, and our call to action was the Department of Justice comment line and having everybody kind of flood it, demanding that they drop the charges. And we're planning to do something similar for healthcare and supporting the New York Health Act. So
yeah, they're going to be doing a nationwide Medicare for All march in New York. A bunch of cities are going to be participating. And this is on July 24th. July 22nd, 2 days before, we're going to do another telethon. And we want to bring as much attention to this issue as we can with a call to action. And I do think that the state that I think is closest right now is New York. I do think that the New York Health Act is really generating a lot of interest.
Where will it be come that date? Like, will it even be, will it be a moot point?
It probably will at that point, but that doesn't mean that you don't continue bringing attention to it. And, obviously being in Brooklyn, it's probably the biggest celeb haven outside of, LA. The one person who we cannot say enough good things about that has an amazing platform and is an amazing entertainer in her own right is Susan Sarandon. And the things that she has done to, really put herself out there. But because she's somewhat of an acting legend, she kind of, she's above the ability of the industry to try to knock her off her perch. And that's not something we can really do. There are people who try, like Deborah Messing, but doesn't actually get anywhere. And I think I think a lot of that, as I'm sure you would agree, is born out of envy and jealousy. And when they see that, they get very upset that somebody is as free thinking as they want to be without worrying, well, is this producer going to hate me now? Is this director going to hate me now? You can't think like that. You got to just do your thing. And I still believe that honesty and integrity are the two most important qualities you can have. And people will respect you for that, even if the higher ups are not necessarily in agreement with that.
Try finding that in politics.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think there's it will get so many people burned to be as honest as they ought to be that I think it's very scary for the majority of people. But those who I don't know, you were kind of like, I don't know if AOC is net positive. I think she is unbelievably honest. Like, I think that's one thing that I love about
very
her.
Net positive. I find her very net positive. I'm not somebody who has ever jumped on the slamming AOC bandwagon. I find that completely counterproductive.
Yeah, the one thing that you can say about AOC is that the fame has definitely gone to her head, but at the same time, she's not.
One thing you can say is that her fame has gone to your head.
No,
that's the one thing you could say about AOC.
No,
you got to say one thing if you're going to describe AOC.
He means that's like the one. That's the negative thing that I think
that's the fact that she has. And again, people say, well, you're not doing enough in terms of the vote. What I do think is very important, and this cannot be stressed enough, when you're talking about the issues that really matter and you have such an immensely large platform, that goes a very long way into getting more and more people. It's like a learned reaction over and over again. You keep hearing about, environmental justice, social justice, economic justice, and eventually more and more people become converted, if you will. And by her doing that, that's like anyone who would say, oh, we're no different than if we had Joe Crowley. BS. Well, bullshit, whatever. It really, really does make a difference. But I still think that the hardest nut to crack, and this is kind of why we're sort of stuck, if you will, is the fourth estate or corporate media. It really has an immense stranglehold on a lot of people. And one would say, well, the ratings of CNN, Fox News, MSNBC keeps going down. But now we have this even bigger problem, which is the corporate algorithm that we have to fight through on places like YouTube.
How do you find that? Like you're not really, you're talking about controversial things. You're talking crap about the plastics industry. That can't be popular with Google.
I think, I don't know. My views do okay, I guess. I'm not sure. I think it's, like my shtick is like, I'm a comedian first and foremost. Right. And my favorite thing to communicate is the climate crisis. So like, I think comedy tends to get a pass sometimes.
Maybe because it seems less harmful. Maybe it softens it up a little bit, makes it seem less, scary.
Well, I think we are.
That could be it.
And we're definitely at a point where we need to have some type of, traction. And that's why I keep saying having a call to action is very important. And if we are ever going to, have a plastic ban, we have to figure out what is the consensus. Florida is a very tricky state because we've got these very, funky laws Florida. Up in Tallahassee in terms of what is it with the plastic ban? Like you can't do it at the local level.
We actually have a state that has said that our locals cannot ban plastic.
So it literally would have to
be. Yeah, that's crazy.
We have a lot of things like that in Florida.
It would have to be an amendment that would have to pass at up in Tallahassee.
Because they keep interfering with home rule. That's one thing. But anything having to do with environment taking priority over money or tourism or making life harder for people in the tourism industry, it's just never gonna fly here.
Well, that's why
it's just not. And plastic straws are way too important.
And when you talk about running for office, if I am ever going to do it, I would run for the Commissioner of Agriculture.
Yes,
it is a very important position, but it's not
very important.
But it's not sexy. It's not a position that people
Definitely
who are
not yet, not till you get there.
Well, hey, now we're talking business here. But the truth is, the people who are politically ambitious and do not give a damn about whether the position they are filling in is actually there to serve the people. Unfortunately, it's the truth. It's all about how do I get to the next rung on the ladder. And the reason I say that is because Nikki Fried, who is running for governor now, really shouldn't be running for governor because she is the Commissioner of Agriculture and she should run for her second term. And when she terms out, then she would be running for governor in an open race.
And instead, she's forfeiting the highest ranked Democratic statewide seat that the Democrats have. She's forfeiting that seat to run for governor and really is not going to beat Ron DeSantis.
Did somebody call her? Let's call her.
Oh,
we call her.
I have a friend who is high up in the party in the state, and he won't say
they're not happy.
He won't say it publicly, but he is unbelievably livid with her. And I told him, I'm like, you have to understand that politics, while it is noble and you want to serve the people, it does not attract as many people on nobility as it does on ego and career-minded approach. Most people are in it for the wrong reasons. And somebody whose only concern is how do I clear the next rung on the ladder is not the person that you want to be electing into office. That is something that's important. So we have from Mega Freak.
Well, I just think that's interesting. What they're saying is it doesn't matter if you ban plastics because we're still demanding it and making it. So it's sort of like you have to stop making it if you keep making it, even though you're. I mean, I think that's what that's saying, right?
Yeah,
I guess if you ban it, there's less of a demand for the product, so you wouldn't make it to the same.
You wouldn't make as much, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're not wrong, though. Like, we're sort of the alternative to single use plastics is probably glass or paper, like a milk carton kind of paper.
Yeah.
But you get into all sorts of like weight issues. For instance, like driving a truck full of glass bottles around takes more fossil
I think we
fuel
need to start thinking about like hemp and bamboo. But
yeah, no,
like I've seen single like use bamboo bowl container type things. Like I've seen that in restaurants before, which just seems like a better plan to me. It seems, you know, I mean, it just seems smarter.
Or a porcelain plate.
But then it's breakable.
Oh, wait.
See, that's the thing. Like when you're talking about
breakable it's breakable, but
well, here's the thing. When you're talking about Florida, what I envision in my head is you think about the beach and all the restaurants and the open containers and the takeout and all this stuff, because the beach is absolutely filthy and disgusting. Like it's plastic straws, bottle caps, like we do beach cleanup. So like this is, and when I think about where I see the most plastic, it's from food service things and takeout containers, and it's generally food related. That what we see in terms of like our tourist areas, like the biggest amount. So yeah, if you have something that's made of something that's, you know, bamboo, then it's going to be biodegradable at least. I mean, it's not going to be something it's not going to kill the fish.
It's also one of the biggest problems in Florida,
hopefully,
because it's such a transient state, and especially down here, you don't have community camaraderie, so people just don't care. And
that is a thing.
Yeah, Hollywood, Florida is a great example of that. It's a very touristy type of area, like South Beach.
Yeah,
and you just get people that show up there that just don't care. They flick their cigarette butts everywhere. They throw their trash on the beach. Yeah. And while in the grand scheme of things, maybe it's not that significant compared to other things, it still matters. And just having this whole mindset, like you said before, about it's every person for themselves, and not thinking about, well, is my action actually going to have a negative reaction to somebody who's living here? I always think like that. And unfortunately, that's not how most people think.
We have to think about the nature of the collective. That's what I call it. But then the last time I talked about the importance of us thinking of the collective was when I think somebody called me a communist.
If I'm on the campaign trail, and whether I'm running against a corporate Democrat or I'm running against somebody in the GOP, my answer is very simple. If they say that guy's a communist or they're a socialist and this and that, to say, you could call me whatever you want to call me. All I know is that if I'm in office, I'm going to serve the people a hell of a lot better than you will.
But yeah,
that's a good one-liner.
Caught up,
and then I say, funny how?
Yeah, like I'm a clown, and I am here to amuse you. I'm going to tell you that politics and comedy go hand in hand because politics is a joke.
We got that written down. You got that in writing.
You can absolutely use it, my friend. You can absolutely use it.
He loves the idea of somebody using it.
Sell it to me for $1, man. Mail me that note that you wrote comedy is a joke on and sell it to me for $1. I'll buy it.
So funny.
So what if I get the royalties?
So what other stuff do you work on besides Climate Town? Because obviously you're doing other things that is not like, you know, I hope so, because if you're only doing that like once every couple of months, you're not doing much. But so I'm assuming
sure. Yeah, I got a couple of other hustles going on. I do billiards videos. That's part of my shtick is a lot of billiard stuff. There was actually a world championship that just ended today, actually. Albin Ocean of Austria won it over this guy from Kuwait, whose name I can't remember. He's a newish guy. I mean, whatever.
I don't know any of the current people. I read
say,
Willie Mosconi's book back in the day.
You remember what?
Willie Mosconi. I read his book back in the old school people. And you even had Minnesota Fats, who really wasn't as great of a pool player as he just was more of a character. But some of that's, I mean, you've seen The Hustler, yes?
The what? No, I'm just joking. Yeah, I've seen The Hustler. Yeah, of course. I love that movie.
Just checking, just making sure.
Well, she's a huge fan of Paul Newman.
I am. Well, okay. Anyone who isn't is just wrong.
Yeah, the salad dressing guy or what?
That's exactly. Well,
okay, now he's way more than the salad dressing guy. But speaking of that, though, that was somebody who started a business that was all proceeds go for nonprofit. All of their proceeds of their company have always gone to nonprofit. It's always been that way. So I generally do support their products.
Sure. I mean, Paul Newman, that guy, I don't know him personally, but he seems like he's a cool dude.
Yeah, he was a cool dude.
He's been gone for a little while.
Yeah. So I just appreciate that you're a pool player.
This is the first time hearing of it.
What?
So Paul Newman died. I gotta send some emails. No, I'm just joking. Anyway, so I do these billiard videos. I just started a podcast, which is pretty fun.
What's it called?
It's called Sweatpants, a low-key climate podcast.
Cool.
It is with this company called Climate Control Projects. They're like a new climate company coming up through the ranks. So I think that's launching in
Sweatpants.
Sweatpants, yeah. It's launching on Monday or something.
Oh, cool. So everybody check out that new podcast. And what kind of stuff are you covering? Obviously, I understand it's climate, but
but it's a low key podcast. So it's mostly I basically have two conversations. One is with a climate scientist, and one was with a comedian or artist or somebody. And they're very it's very low key, and it's not on YouTube. It's on Spotify.
It's a podcast. It's Spotify and iTunes. Right? Spotify and iTunes.
Hell yeah. And wherever podcasts are found, I think.
Wherever
is
podcasts
part of the thing
are
you're supposed to say.
And just
that's what I've heard.
That's where ours is too. So find our podcast.
If you just want to listen, you don't want to see our mugs, and there you go.
Yeah, well, a lot of people like to listen in the car and do whatever. You listen to stuff in the car.
That's true.
Yeah,
we've definitely evolved. Things are just not going to be the same anymore. Podcasts is, you could call it the wave of the future, just the way things are now normally. But I also don't think people are going to tolerate working in an office 9 to 5, 7, 5 days a week.
I think that's a big part of it, is that people are kind of more mobile. But I so appreciate you coming on and chatting with us. And I want everybody to check out that video. I haven't seen our producer on the chat, so he might not be watching. But John, when you're listening to this, please put the link to the video in the description when you post this.
Omnichrome is absolutely right. Single-use items that are made from other products, and some organizations do consciously make sure that their single-use items are made of paper. Some, I think, use bamboo.
I'm just saying, I remember, and there's also these bamboo, instead of plastic forks, knives, and spoons,
right?
Because I put the packs together with my friend, and they were all single-use bamboo utensils.
Ironically, the place that we went to in Little Haiti that I got my food, they were using the single-use bamboo. I guess it was bamboo. Fork and knife, and
that's cool.
You just have to make the effort, and they all look at it as the bottom line. And I got to tell you, and you're in Brooklyn, so no, it doesn't. Of all the restaurant industries that are probably the most habitually offensive when it comes to this issue, are Italian restaurants. They still use styrofoam. I cannot understand for the life of me how people still use styrofoam.
I don't know.
Yeah, everybody out here is using styrofoam.
Yeah, we have lots of it too.
Yeah,
because it's what's cheapest for them. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, it's legal. It's legal to do that, so they'll do it.
Yep.
Yeah, even though it's been proven to contaminate food. I mean, I don't want to give McDonald's any credit, but as kids, you can remember when if you ever got a sandwich there, it used to come in a styrofoam container.
Sure, yeah.
They stopped doing that.
The fillet of fish was blue.
Fillet of fish was blue.
Fillet of fish was blue.
McChicken was.
I can't even get into that with you. I was a child of styrofoam. I'm a 70s child.
Yeah. I don't eat fast food anymore, so you can't look at me. I don't need any of that nonsense anymore.
Thank you so much for coming on and talking about all this.
Thanks for having me.
And I mean, this was great. I appreciate it. Everyone check out Raleigh's stuff on Climate Town, and Sweatpants is a new podcast that's going to be coming out. And he's very, very good at making the things that really aren't that funny kind of funny. So I'm just saying, like,
it's kind of funny. I'll take it. I'll take it.
I mean, it is. It's tragic. I think you're watching like oceans of plastic washing up on the beach. It's just generally not that funny to me.
But that's why I think the importance of doing these, crossover podcast discussions and things like that. What is that?
Somebody just asked me if I've ever been to the Plantisserie. It's in Miami. It's organic, vegan, home style food.
Oh, that looks interesting.
Now he'll drag me there.
Walk out. Now we definitely got to go check it out. But of course, in Brooklyn, you never have a shortage of all the healthy stuff that you can want to eat. That's
it's great.
One thing that Brooklyn does do well. Reducing the carbon footprint is something that is of immense importance to most of the people who live there. And that is a great thing. And that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out new ways, effective ways to break the stranglehold that big oil has had on our society for far too long. And I think getting past plastic is definitely one of the keys to do that if we're going to really sustain our planet going forward. Raleigh, we can't thank you enough for coming on. Your video was fantastic. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, the video is on Climate Town, and it's a YouTube channel, and it's about the plastic scam. So that's what you
everybody check it out, and it'll be when we post it, we'll put it in the description.
We will put it in the description. We'll make our
thank you.
Yeah, we'll make a specific clip just for that particular video. Let's definitely keep in touch, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you guys so much. I hope to see you soon.
Absolutely, brother.
Bye.
Bye.
See you later. I mean, talk about fun. and not only that, but I
didn't realize that his primary thing was comedy. I just thought that this guy made this really cool climate video.
That was important.
All I saw was that he was a pool player, and I'm like, okay, well, that's. Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.